comparing the number of miles she can go and the amount of hours she can drive, right? Right? So that would be considered some kind of a rate right here, okay? When I go grocery shopping, I always end up in two places a lot that I don't know how much I pay for it, but I know like what we say is the unit rate. Like, so when I go to the meat counter at Hy-Vee all the time, and they might say chicken, and it might say $3.99. What's that $3.99 mean for the chicken that's there?
$3.
You're typically buying chicken for $3.99 for every pound you get, right? Or apples, like if you want Honeycrisp apples or something, it says $2.29. What's that mean? Does that mean $2.29 for as many apples as you want?
Yes.
I wish it was.
Yeah.
Okay, but it means you're gonna pay $2.29 for every pound that you buy, right? Some kind of a rate. It's like Slater showing up to work today, okay? Slater's probably making $56 per hour today, right? 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 Okay?
Yes.
Those will all be considered rates. Anytime we compare one unit to another, miles to hours, dollars to pounds, dollars per hour, it's always going to be considered some kind of a rate. And we'll look at an example here. Guys, ratios. What's the difference between a rate and a ratio? Anybody know this? Rates and ratios. Got an idea, John?
Ratio compares the same unit, and rate is, well, it compares different units.
Okay, so like we talked about
That's
Anna
the
driving 55 miles per hour. I don't want
Yeah.
to tell the law that I'm a mandatory reporter and she was speeding. Okay? Alright, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
I
Alright.
suggest you do it. Just kidding.
But you're comparing the number of miles an hour. Miles an hour are two different units, right? When we talk about ratios, ratios are going to be kind of comparing the same unit, okay? Now, ratios are kind of tricky sometimes because people get confused on units, but how many people are in this room totally? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 of us in here totally, okay? Of the 11, how many are girls?
1 and 3.
3, okay? Which means how many boys in this room right now? There's 11 people total. 8 of us, right? Okay? If I had to ask you what's the ratio of boys to girls, what would you say? Number of boys? 8 to the number of girls. Now, boys and girls obviously very different, okay, but we would consider that a ratio because both boys and girls are people, right? Okay, so you're comparing person to person there. That would be like comparing the same unit, okay? So let's look at some of the terms here today and get into some of the problems. I think you're going to find that as we move through this section and move through the rest of the chapter, it's going to be a lot easier than some of the stuff we've been doing here lately, okay? So that's really pretty good news, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so guys, in 6.1, here we go. Rates and ratios. Our goal, what's our goal say up there?
Find rate and unit rate.
Okay, let's talk about what a unit rate is first of all. All right, find ratios and unit rates. Okay. That unit rate is something that we just been talking about. Anna drove 60 miles per hour. Okay, that means she can go 60 miles in how many hours, guys?
1.
1. I go up to the grocery store. I pay $2.29 for apples. That means I can pay $2.29 for 1 pound. Okay, and we'll talk about what that means here in a second. Right here, definition. This is very important for us to understand the difference between ratio and rate. Here's what we're talking about. A ratio is going to compare the, what's it say? What's the word here? Same units. Okay, so like we were doing boys to girls, we're comparing a person to a person. All right. A rate is going to compare different units, like the miles per hour. Miles and hours are very different, right? Miles is the distance, hours is the time. Okay, so that's going to be comparing different units. All right. So make sure that you've got that down. Okay, let's talk here. Let's get through the vocab here quickly. See if we can't figure some of this stuff out. In our vocabulary, the first term that we have is a ratio. And a ratio says it uses division to compare two quantities. So an example might be something like this. You might say an example is 8 over 3. Okay? 8 over 3. Okay, that was the boys to girls example that we used. There's 8 boys in this room and there are 3 girls in this room. So a ratio, it says basically is using what operation here? Division to compare two quantities, okay? Division can be written in a fraction form, right, gang?
Yeah.
All agree? Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Equivalent ratios are two ratios of the same value. Let's think about this. Basketball. It's basketball season right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In basketball, let's say that I made 7 shots out of every 10 shots attempted. 7 shots made out of every 10 shots attempted. Okay. Here's a question for you. Let's say I've now taken 30 shots and I continued to make 7 out of 10 all the way through this. Okay. Anybody got a guess out of the 30 how many I would have made then?
No.
If I make 7 shots out of every 10 shots attempted, got a guess how many I'm going to make out of 30? 21. All right, Max, 21. I think that's a good number. How'd you come up with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I did
Subtraction.
How many times more attempts did I make going from 10 to 30? 3 times, right? Which meant that if I'm going to continue at this ratio right here, I'm making 7 out of every 10 shots. This would have to get multiplied by what?
3.
Okay, which is going to be.
20.
Remember when I said are fractions equivalent? You guys remember when we talked about are these two fractions equivalent, and you would divide them to see if the decimal was the same thing? Remember when we did that a while back? Okay. If they ever ask you is something an equivalent ratio, well, guys, we just said ratio uses what here? We can turn fractions into decimals by dividing, right? So if we say are these two ratios the same, or in this case equivalent right here, I can simply take 7 divided by 10 and see if that's the same as 21 divided by 30, couldn't I? So let's do that.
And
7 divided by 10. Watch what I get here, kiddos. Oh, where's my calculator? Where'd it go? Ruh-roh.
what is rough?
You ever watch Scooby-Doo?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Ruh-roh, right?
Okay, I get it. Whoever heard of a talking dog again? What?
You don't believe that dogs talk?
Only in the cartoon.
I'll show you a dog that talks.
Okay,
A
okay,
real life
there is
dog.
a dog that talks, so you can only say I
There we
love
go.
you. It's pretty embarrassing, yes.
7 divided by 10. What do we get for a decimal, Gary?
0.7,
21 divided by 30.
0.06 repeatings.
What do you get?
0.7.
Are those ratios equivalent?
Yes.
So 7 over 10, that ratio is equivalent to 21 out of 30. Okay? You good with that? Yeah.
I got something different on my calculator.
Punch in
2
21 divided by 30 again.
What?
I think you did 20 divided by 30. Do
No, I
21.
actually did 2 divided by 30.
Okay. How about 21 divided by 30?
Fun fact for you. Yesterday,
Oh, it was actually 21. I'm sorry.
Yep,
I
no,
just
that's
did
good.
two.
You got it down now?
said that fish were mammals. I was like, what?
They're amphibians, aren't they?
I don't know what they are, but they're not mammals.
What?
Slater, help me.
My mom said they were reptiles too.
What are
Not
reptiles?
a science guy, but
Neither am I.
amphibians doesn't
Mason,
sound
wait,
right.
what are reptiles? What
Oh,
are
no.
reptiles?
You gotta have like legs for that.
When we get done with this lesson, we're going to find out, okay?
What are we gonna find out?
Lots of stuff.
Oh, please.
I'm going to
please
stick
tell me
with what I
Mason
know
said.
today. I'm going to stick with what I know.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, how to express ratios, guys. Get this down. This is just kind of a general note right here, but how to express ratios. I'm going to go back to this ratio of 8 to 3 that we talked about. We said we can express it as a fraction, right? 2 other ways to represent ratios. We could say, you know what? Sometimes I put an 8 and then a colon 3. This simply means 8 to 3 also. Okay? So understand the first fraction that I have here and what I have in the middle, they mean exactly the same thing. And then the third way to write it is just to write 8 and then use the word 2, T-O, 3. Okay? All 3 of these expressions are exactly the
Yes.
same thing. are exactly the same ratio, I'm positive.
Okay. I was just testing.
Okay, let me know when you got that down.
Mr. Person, do you have a red nose? Are you always?
Yes.
Oh, it's just the reflection on the projector.
And you're gonna run out of here and
What? Are you okay?
yeah.
Why are you checking your cell phone now? I'm just
He's figuring out some videos.
okay.
Okay, here's the answer. It says fish are separate classifications simply called fish.
Fish?
They're not
are
amphibians.
amphibians? What are they then?
Fish.
Just fish.
Oh, okay.
They're just fish.
So that's fish is a species of
Okay, we got that cleared up now. Good. Let's rock and roll. I need somebody to read example 1 for me, please.
I will
Go ahead, John.
how do you spell that?
Anaheim.
Anaheim. The Anaheim Angels play 81 the home games.
All right.
Yeah. Anaheim, is that how you ever say it?
Yep, Anaheim.
Anaheim won 54 of those games and lost 27. Write the ratio in 3 different ways. For A, the number of losses to the number of wins, and B, the number of losses to the number of games.
Okay, so within this right here, how many home games played totally?
81.
81. Whoops, I didn't want to use black there.
I suggest you use like yellow or a bright color, like green or neon green.
81 home games, right, kiddos?
Yes.
All right. How many did they win of those 81?
54.
Lost how many?
27.
Okay. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, since we're talking about ratios simply being written in division form meaning fractions, what have I always told you to do with fractions in the past? Simplify them. So you may want your tool to simplify quickly. You might want to have that out or open. I don't care if that's in your phone, your tablet, or Chromebook, doesn't matter, okay? All right. Part A wants us to write ratios for the following. Now, guys, we're comparing wins and losses. Are wins and losses the same thing or same unit?
Yep.
They're not, are they? Okay. But we're going to call this a ratio because winning games and losing games, we're still talking, we're comparing a number of games to a number of games, right? We're just saying, are we winning the game or are we losing the game? All right? So, letter A, and what I want you to get out of this today is the following. The way things are written or asked within the question is really going to determine how you answer the question. One thing I want to tell you is this. 8 to 3 is very different than 3 to 8 now, okay? What goes up top and what goes on the bottom is going to matter, all right? So in part A it says, compare the number of losses, here's the word to, the number of what? Wins. That word 2 is like your fraction bar, or your colon, or the word 2 in your ratio. What's the first number I have to put up here according to this statement? The number of what?
Losses.
Number of losses. Well, how many games did we lose?
27.
27. So my ratio here is simply going to be 27. And then I'll put 2. The number of wins. How many games were won?
54.
54. Now I could put this in a fraction form and say, you know what, this is really what over what? 27 over 54. So now, since we've got this in a fraction form, I would ask you guys to simplify that. 27 over 54. I would ask you guys to simplify that.
Why do you have a line over the 54?
That was underlying the word losses right there. We're
Okay.
comparing losses to
Okay.
wins. Okay, so this converts to 1/2. Okay. All right, so let's talk about this in a practical sense. Okay, what's that 1/2 really represent? Well, guys, we were comparing the number of what? To the number of wins. And we think the ratio we get is 1 to 2. It means for every one game that we,
What?
what was the first one that we had?
Losses.
For every one game that we lose in our home park, we turn around and win 2, right? Okay, for every one loss we have in that stadium, we win how much? 2. That's what this means. 1 loss to 2 wins. It means for every 1 loss that we've had this year, there have been 2 wins, right? By the way, if there's any baseball fans in here, that is a phenomenal home record.
Yes, it is.
Okay? The 1987 Minnesota Twins, quick history lesson. You ready for this?
Yes.
You ready for this?
Yes.
56-25 at home that year. 56-25 at home that year.
Well, when you play in the kookiest park in the world.
Hey.
What makes it kooky?
Well, the
I was
ceiling's white.
I was at Game 6 of the World Series in '87, Slater.
Were you?
Yeah. Yep, that was the game that Herbeck is Grand
Back in
Slam.
1987?
Wow.
Quick story. My dad got 2 tickets through work. Dad's like big Twins fan. He's like, am I taking son A or son B?
Did he take you?
Gets better. Okay, now this is 1987, alright? My parents didn't have a lot of money at the time, but Dad decided he was going to take the 2 boys up, see them into the park, and then he was going to go across the street somewhere and watch the game on TV. Okay? So this is Game 6 of the '87 World Series. They're down 3-2. It's a big game. Gotta win. Gotta win. Okay? Well, my mom had some tricks up her sleeve. She was always a sneaky one. Okay? And get up to the Metrodome there that day, and they're going to see us in. There's scalpers everywhere for tickets. Okay? And my dad asked one guy, he said, how about 3 tickets? Because my mom and my sister decided to ride along with us. So there's 5 of us in the car. We've only got 2 tickets, and Jason and I are going to get to go. And the guy said, well, I'll take $300 for 3 of them. And at the time, $300 was a lot of money to my parents. And before my dad could say, it's too much, I can't do it, my mom had $300 in that guy's hand and 3 tickets in hers. It says, you've been a Twins fan all your life, and the only thing you ever want to do is go to a World Series game. You're going.
That's awesome.
So we sat on one side of the park, about halfway the upper deck on third base, and they were sitting out in right field. We got out there early enough. Third base and right field were opposite of each other. We could wave to each other across there. So great game too. Great game. Herbeck's Grand Slam. They broke the decibel meter that game. That was part of breaking a decibel meter. It was fun. It was loud. Say something. Good stuff. All right. Enough of the stories of baseball. I love baseball. Slater, you in April 13th? I'll go. All right. All right. All right. Number of losses to the number of games. Okay, this is an important one. What are we comparing this first? What do we want first?
Losses.
Number of losses. How many is that?
27.
27 to what? How many total
81.
games did we play?
81.
81. Okay, someone simplify that. Simplest form of that ratio.
1/3.
1/3. Okay, let's just talk about what this means. At home, it means for every 1 game that you do what? It means for every 1 loss out of every how many games? 3. We lose 1 game out of every 3. What's that mean then about winning? What would the ratio of wins to number of games be? If we lose 1 out of every 3, what's that mean about winning?
2/3.
Winning 2 out of every 3. Excellent. Okay. Guys, this part makes sense. You understand that the wording right here in A and B determines what goes in the numerator and what goes in the denominator of your ratio? Okay. Questions on the front side? So far, not too bad, right? All agree? All right, well, let's look at the second page, kiddos. On the second page, I'll have you do on your own right there. It says, use example 1 to write the ratio of the number of wins to the number of games in 3 different ways. Okay, I'll just write down what we had for information. We had 27 losses. We had 54 wins. And we had 81 games. Okay, so on your own, this is saying, write the ratio of the number of wins to the number of games in 3 different ways. So comparing wins to games, wins to games, wins to games. Simplify that for me. It says write it 3 different ways. So like in fraction form, maybe with a colon, and then using the word to. Okay, take a minute and do that. If you get stuck, let us know.
Stack refer to the front page and the notes,
54.
how to express ratios.
My freaking computer won't load.
Okay. First of all, if I was using these values, which of these, which two of the three values am I going to be using in this problem?
54 and 81.
54 and 81. So we've got 54 wins, 81 games. So what did that reduce to for us, gang? 2 to 3. Okay, so we're going to win 2 games out of every 3 played. Exactly what Max said back there when we were asking that question. How else could I write this? First page of your notes.
2,
Look at this part right down here.
2, 3.
So use the word 2, right? Okay. So I could have 2 to 3. That's another way to write it.
And 2 colon 3.
Okay. Those are 3 ways I can represent that ratio right there. Win 2 games on every 3 played. Okay. Ratios. We okay with this? Basically just fractions, right? Basically just fractions and reducing. Okay, well, let's get on this idea right here then of rates. Okay. And this example 2 is going to start talking about a unit rate, the amount of something per 1 unit of quantity. Like we discussed already, we said Anna drove 60 miles per how many hours? She can go 60 miles in
1 hour.
1 hour. We're comparing her first number to 1 unit of quantity. So what that means again is this. Carson shows up for work today. He makes $23 per hour. It means I'm going to get $23 in 1 hour. That second number is always going to be what? 1. Okay? So you might write this down. If I have something like this, the word 60 miles per hour, or John's word, MPH, means 60 miles, we can go 60 miles for every 1 hour that you travel, okay? In a unit rate, this bottom number is always what? Bottom number is always, that's not gonna fit.
Bottom is also
The bottom will always be what value?
always
1. I have a question for you. The other day I was driving. I was able to go 210 miles in 3 hours. I was able to go 210 miles in 3 hours. How fast was I going? So 210 miles in 3 hours. Anybody have an idea how fast I was going?
about 80 or 90 miles an hour.
I couldn't get a ticket, John.
What?
70.
I didn't want a ticket.
Okay.
What was it? How fast was I going?
70.
What kind of road was I on?
Interstate.
Interstate, 70 miles an hour, right?
Mr. Person?
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I said it.
Well, that's all right.
Okay.
Max, come back to you. How did you get that 70?
210 divided by 3.
Yeah. If I have a rate like that where I go 210 miles in 3 hours, can I just take 210 and divide it by 3 to know how much I went in 1 hour? Okay, 70 miles an hour. Okay. So I got an example down here. It says on this example, it says on the first day of family vacation, the Griswolds drive how far? 392 miles. It says the amount of gas used was what?
16.
Okay, it says what's the average mileage per what? Gallon on the trip. Okay? It's kind of like, I say my truck gets about 22. What's that mean?
Do 22 miles per
22 miles per gallon. I go 22 miles on 1 gallon gas average, right? Well, right here they said you could go 392 miles on what? 16 gallons of gas. It says, what's the average mile per, this is really how many gallons? 1 gallon on a trip. We want to know the number of miles traveled for every 1 gallon, or number of gallons. Well, guys, you have all the information up here to figure out how many miles per gallon you're getting, okay? The way that's written, miles is up top, gallons is on the bottom, miles per gallon, right? How many miles was the trip?
392.
How many gallons of gas did it use to get 392 miles?
60.
So if I wanted to figure out how many miles can I go on 1 gallon of gas right here, what are you going to do with the 392 and a 16? Divide it. What do you guys get?
24.5.
24 and a half.
Yep.
Okay, so that means that I can go 24.5 miles on 1 gallon of gas. Okay? So I might write this using some of the things that you know or have taken for granted. Being somebody that's been in vehicles before, you might write this as 24.5 mpg. You guys have seen that. mpg means miles per what?
Miles a gallon.
Miles per gallon. So when it says right here, I want to kind of circle this. When it says miles per gallon, what's the unit rate in miles per gallon? Basically, you're going to take the number of miles you went and the number of gallons you used, and what operation are you doing with all this? Riding. Okay. Why did I have to put 392 on top? Well, what was listed first up here? Okay. All right. Okay. Why don't you guys try and find the unit rates for me here? Find the number of miles per hour here, and then find the cost per person for that. Go ahead and find those rates. This should be very quick, very easy.
Do we just
Yeah.
take
These are all fractions, right?
Yes.
What operation of fractions, John?
Divide, division.
There you go.
Done.
And the first one says you can go 220 miles in 4 hours. That was another example that I had on a 2-lane highway. Is Mr. Parson driving the appropriate speed limit? 220 miles in 4 hours? What'd you guys get for a unit rate for 220 miles in 4 hours? What value did you get? How much?
55.
I am a law-abiding citizen, aren't I, Fratsky?
Yep.
220 divided by 4 meant that you got 55 miles per what? Miles per 1 hour. How many had 55 there? Pretty simple, right? Okay. Let's say it's $115 for 5 people to go to a game. What was the cost per person? You took 115, divided it by 5. So you got 115 divided by 5. What value was that again, Mason?
23.
$23 per person. Very good. Very good. All right, questions on that page? All right, last one here quickly. We'll get you a short assignment, a short quick quiz. Pretty simple stuff. Okay. Guys, it says the amount of water used in a certain home is 728 gallons per what?
For a week.
Okay. All right, so we are using 728 gallons of water in 1 week, right? Everybody agree with that?
Is it okay if I put gallons as GALS?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
It says write this in gallons per what?
Day.
Write this in gallons per day. What is this in the number of gallons? I'll write X gallons per 1 day. Well guys, this is where things get kind of important when we start talking about rates. Units are going to matter. What you have up top, you want to match what's on the bottom. Okay? What am I trying to find over here? Number of what? Number of gallons used for every 1 day. I'm comparing gallons to days. Now guys, in the information that was given, am I giving gallons per day here? I'm giving gallons per what? Week. But do you guys know what conversion? How many days would be in 1 week? Okay, what I would suggest is this. Take what you know, convert it into units that you want over here, and then do your division to answer the question. So what I could do is say, you know what? The gallons match the gallons right here. That's good, right? But the week doesn't match the days down here. But do we know something about 1 week in terms of the number of days? 7 days, right? This is really saying the same as 728 gallons in 7 days. So knowing that 1 week is equivalent to 7 days right here, this is still the same information given in the problem, right? Right? So how would you use that information now to figure out how many gallons of water you're using in 1 day, or the unit rate for this problem? Well, what would you do with these two values? Divide. Right?
It's 104.
So based on this right here, you're using 104 gallons per day. Excuse me. Okay. So the question wanted to know again, gallons per what? I know gallons per day. We were given gallons per week. We said, you know what, we should probably make what's given match what we find in terms of units. So we said, you know what, 1 week is the equivalent of 7 days. So we have that comparison, gallons to days, gallons to days. So once you've got them to match, it's just simply a matter of division. All right? Okay, let's try one more example. Okay, lightning strikes occur about 100 times per what? Okay, so there's 100 strikes of lightning. For every what? 1 second, right? Okay. So how many strikes would there be in 2 seconds? 200. Okay. In 3 seconds? 300. Well, the question goes on, how many lightning strikes occur in what? 3 minutes. Now think about this. What time unit are we using first? It strikes 100 times every second. So if I knew the number of seconds, I could multiply that by what? Well,
100.
to multiply by 100. Is 3 minutes 3 seconds? Or something different? How many seconds is 3 minutes? 180, right? Okay, we want to know how many strikes this would be. How many strikes is that? In 180 seconds. Is 180 seconds being the 3 minutes times 60 seconds in a minute, right, guys? Right? Okay, so really, guys, I would have to take one. This is 180 times larger than that right there. So what would you have to do to the number of strikes? What would you have to multiply that by? Times 180. So let's see. What's that equal? 180 times 100. What do you guys get?
18,000.
So in 3 minutes, how many lightning strikes to the earth? 18,000. Let's think about this right here. Do me a favor. Take that 18,000 times about 21 for me.
378,000.
Do you guys realize that sitting in math class this morning from start to finish, that the earth will be hit by lightning approximately 378,000 times as you're sitting here?
How many people will be hit?
What do you mean lightning?
What's that?
How many people will be hit?
That's a good question.
Do people get killed every second right now? A day or something?
Okay, do this for me. Let's figure this out quick. Okay. That would be in about an hour. Okay, John, do this for me.
Yeah?
Want to punch some numbers for me?
Yes.
Take 18,000 times 20.
360,000.
There's 360,000 lightning strikes in an hour. Now, how many hours are in a day?
About 24?
So let's take that number times 24.
8,640,000.
So the Earth gets hit about 8,460,000, you said?
8,640,000.
So about 8.6 million times the Earth gets hit today. Earth gets hit about 8.6 million times with lightning.
Wow.
Okay, so let's check this out.
Yeah? Let's check one out. The book? Good.
On average,
On average?
how many people die lightning? Should we go daily?
Yes.
Okay, this here says this.
Yeah. One time a guy got struck by lightning in his house. I watched it on YouTube. Have you found anything yet?
Yeah, I'm not finding it right away. But just know that the world is going to get struck about 8.6 million times today.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yep.
I wish I had $1 for every lightning strike.
You have a